Okay, it's 6:03, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We'll start with the consent agenda, previous minutes. If there's any discussion, let me know. If not, then I'll entertain a motion to accept those.
I make a motion.
Okay, Devin made the motion. Akua? Rachel?
I'm wondering if we have an online sound issue.
Is the volume up on the TV? I'm not sure.
Try it again. Okay. Okay, I had a motion to accept the previous minutes. Akua? Rachel?
Is the volume up on the touch screen?
Sure. Akua, can you hear?
Pause this board meeting for a technical difficulty.
Would you say we're all excused for technical difficulty?
Good try.
Probably not.
You're full of those tonight, Josh.
They cannot hear us.
Akua, can you hear us? Rachel?
I'm gonna use the system. See if that works.
Okay. All right. Akua, can you hear us?
Don't think that's gonna work.
That's not gonna work.
Okay, great. We got it, Courtney.
I'm gonna fix the sound first.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Okay, I had a motion to accept the previous minutes. I'm doing roll. Akua? Rachel? Aye. Josh?
Aye.
Devin?
Aye.
And Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, on the policies, we have a whole bunch of first reads there. Any concerns, issues, comments on those? If not, then I entertain a motion to accept all of those.
I'll make the motion to accept.
Sarah made the motion to accept the first reads. Akua? Aye. Rachel? Aye. Devin?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. We have nothing for the second read, and then the last one's just informational on the school behavioral threat assessment procedures. Any questions on that one? Okay, do we need to reprioritize anything?
I have two things under student that will require executive session, so I would like to move that we do that at the end of the meeting. And then we'll just let everyone else go.
Okay.
It is pretty
Yes.
stacked in both stuff, and what you guys are saying, Rachel, I don't know if you have anything issue or it's just me.
You might have to use the microphone.
I'm just saying, it's a little stacky, I can hear it perfectly clear, but you guys up front are pretty choppy.
Let's just see.
You might have to use the microphone.
Suzanne said the same.
I don't know what that is.
I have no idea. Maybe feedback from all the computers and all the other stuff up there. Yeah, the mic.
but yeah, if you wanna talk, you can let me know.
Okay.
Okay, before we start the public comment, I want to take a moment to set expectations for our time together for public comment. Our expectations for tonight's discussion, as outlined in our district code of conduct, all community members, including board members, staff, and those participating in public comment are expected to do, one, show respect. That means treat others with kindness and consideration. Listen to others' perspectives and using respectful language. Second, communicate clearly, share information honestly and in straightforward language. Third is create a safe learning environment, help ensure all spaces are physically and emotionally safe for everyone. And last, practice self-awareness. That means recognize your own emotions and impact on others. Our code is specifically calls on us to speak calmly and courtesy, listen actively when others are speaking, and use appropriate language and tone. We will not tolerate shouting, insulting, threatening, swearing, or humiliating language directed at any community member. So moving forward tonight, we understand that our community holds diverse viewpoints, and we respect the right of community members to express their perspectives during public comment. However, we ask that all comments tonight focus on constructive dialogue rather than personal attacks. And the speakers remember that the young people we serve may be listening to these recorded proceedings. When we disagree, our code of conduct calls us to focus on solutions rather than blame and work forward or toward building positive relationships, addressing the root causes of conflicts. The board will listen respectively to all public comments, adhere to our behavioral expectations. We reserve the right to pause or end any comments that violate our code of conduct or create an unsafe environment for any community members. For tonight's public comment period, we have a speaker list that is circulating. If you wish to address the board, please add your name to the list. Each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes, and we will use the timer to ensure fairness for all who wish to participate. When your time approaches the 2-minute limit, I will provide a general reminder so you can conclude your remarks. Please understand that public comment is an opportunity for community members to share their perspectives with the board administration. We will listen actively to everyone's comments, but there will be no back and forth debate or discussion during this time. The board may choose to respond to questions or concerns at a later time or through appropriate channels. The board has a full agenda for tonight's meeting and may be necessary to end public comment after 30 minutes. If there are community members who still wish to be heard, we encourage anyone who is unable to speak tonight or prefers to share their thoughts in writing to submit their comments to the board in writing. Written comments can be submitted before or after the meeting and will be reviewed by all board members. Thank you for your attention to these guidelines. We now invite public comment, beginning with any speakers that would like to speak.
I'm messaging, hold on.
Yep.
While she's checking online, it doesn't appear that there's anyone in the room. I forgot something under agenda preview and prioritization. We have a presentation under Anthony's section. I'm wondering if we can move that after the spotlight. Okay. Thank you. Is it safe to assume we have no public comment?
No public comment?
I'm going to say no, she hasn't answered.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll move right on to the school spotlight then.
Okay.
Courtney will get our presentation pulled up. I brought a couple people with me tonight for the presentation. I have Tim Stanley, who is our Behavior Systems Coordinator, and Justin Schwenk, who is the new Assistant Principal here at Enosburg Middle High School. I brought them because we are all new, it's an all-new administrative team. here this year. And so this is an opportunity for us here at the school to kind of shift the culture and make an impact right here at the beginning of the school year to kind of set the tone for our vision moving forward. And along with that comes a lot of looking, listening, digging for data, and putting a lot of things into place that we see as areas of growth. And so we spent quite a bit of time this summer identifying some different areas that we felt like we could make an immediate impact with. Some different areas throughout the days that were troublesome, that were identified by talking to faculty, talking to students, getting lots of feedback in lots of different ways. And so you're going to see throughout this presentation as Justin and Tim talk about a lot of the system work that we've been doing and putting measures into place to really move us forward in a couple different ways. So Courtney, if you want to hit the next slide. And this just talks about it. It's the opportunity for us to really push our new vision and to set a high expectation for not only our students, but for our teachers. And so we're going to do that through increased student voice. We want kids to have the opportunity to not only be here to receive their education, to be a big part of creating educational opportunities for themselves. So you're going to see throughout the presentation a few different ways that we've already been putting that into place. Increased accountability of teachers and students. So it's not just the students that we're looking to hold accountable. We're holding the teachers accountable in different ways, and that's raising the expectation of them being there for students. Student first thought is what we are trying to make pervasive throughout the school. And so holding teachers accountable to holding that true, not only in their classroom, but just being a part of the larger community here at Enosburg as well. And then increasing community involvement. So what different types of things can we do to get the community not only in the school, but get our kids out into the community so that the community can see the difference that we're making in these students' lives. Right now we're planning a big student-led conference event, and we've been doing a lot of work around that to make it an event not only for the students to share the things that they've been working on, their goals and their visions for their future, but to get parents in here to see the work that the students are doing, to start building those bridges and see opportunities in which they can come and be a bigger support for their kids here in the school. And so the first shift is our e-hall pass system. And I was going to let Justin take that away, but he's printing off right now a document that he's going to share with you in a little bit, the constitution that his student government has created. And so that's something that he felt like was important for you to see because it was a constitution that was created by the students and talks about their rights and a whole setup of a whole new student government. So he's going to be coming back for that, but I'll talk a little bit about the e-hall pass system. This is something that's kind of been a game changer here at the school. If you don't know, it's a digital hall pass system. So we received a lot of feedback from teachers, from students, pretty much from everybody about behavior in the hallways during transition times, during class time, and different times throughout the day. So Mr. Schwenk was familiar with the e-hall pass from the previous school that he was at, and so we looked into the system, and it gives us a lot of controls for how students are moving about the building. And it gives us the ability to track a lot of data across the entire day about how students are moving across the building. We can control different situations of how many students are out of a classroom at any given time. our priority is really kids in the classroom focused on their learning. And with kids constantly leaving the classroom, unsupervised, taking various amounts of time to get back into the classroom, we saw this as a benefit to holding kids accountable to going where they said they were going and taking only a certain amount of time to be out of the classroom and then right back in the classroom focused on their learning. And so we can run various reports giving us the number of passes that students are requesting throughout a day, how much time they're out of classrooms. If we need to use it as an added layer of security, we can use it as an added layer of security. So if 2 kids should not be interacting, we can restrict passes so that only one of them can have a pass at a certain time. That way they're never meeting out in the hallways or anything like that. We can set cap limits to avoid overuse. So if a kid is misusing the pass system and trying to get out of every single class, then we can put caps on the number of times that a student can leave the classroom. The contact control is what I talked about of students being able to have passes at the same time. We can set limits on certain places. So if a bathroom only has 2 stalls, the system can only allow for 2 students to use that restroom at any given time. And so there's lots of different controls that we can set for students to feel that a lot of students said they avoided using bathrooms because they were overcrowded, kids were misusing it in different ways and stuff like that. We've seen a remarkable difference, and not only the quantitative data that we've gotten from eHall Pass has been valuable, but qualitatively, we've had so many teachers and staff members tell us just a different feel to the school this year. And kids transitioning in different types of ways, and just there's a culture, a more relaxed culture of people being able to transition without worry. And so kids are using the bathrooms without it being overcrowded and different things like that, which isn't usually on the top priority of a school list when you're looking at data in different types of ways, but it makes a huge difference when you talk about the overall feel and culture of a school. And we're shifting mindsets in that same aspect. So habits around hallway procedures are starting to change. Kids don't have the ability to just freely go about wherever they want to in the school anymore. So there's a little bit more accountability to them about where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be somewhere. They have to be intentional about using passes. So they know that they have to go somewhere, and if they're out a certain amount of time, it's going to alert us. We get alerts if they're out past a certain amount of time, and the pass will alert an administrator, and we can take a little walk around the building to go see, make sure everything's okay. So it leads to reflection about classroom procedures as well. So it makes the teachers stop and think about some of their classroom procedures and how many students are in and out of their classrooms and how much instructional time is being missed from their class from any given student. Okay, so I'm going to let Justin take over from here because he's our eHall Pass expert.
Very good, thank you. Appreciate it. First off, thank you. It's been over long since I've had an opportunity to come and talk to you. I haven't introduced myself yet to the board. eHall Pass is something that I was introduced to about 4 years ago. I used it as a classroom teacher in Indiana before we got here, and I hope I'm not duplicating what Tony has already said. But one of the major observations that we encountered when we first got here was staff, teachers, even kids basically saying, like, just be prepared, the kids kind of roam around, right? We want our students to be in class. We want them to be engaged in what we're doing. We want there to be purposeful activities that they're using to, to learn and to grow. If they are simply roaming around the school, that does not fulfill any of those three things that we want them to be doing. What eHall Pass allows us to do is it gives us that data about where and when people are using the passes and where and when we're utilizing parts of our school during class time specifically. So, for example, these restrooms right down here each have 5 places where you can use the restroom, right? If prior to this you had this sort of stereotypical cliche of kids congregating in the restroom and preventing kids from being able to use the restroom properly because we're just kind of in the, out of class and hanging out in the bathroom, then again, we're not doing our job as educators to engage our students and to use that class time efficiently. What this allows us to do is basically say, if there are 5 stalls with which you can use the restroom, then only 5 passes at a time can be used to go to this particular restroom, right? When all 5 are there, there's no good reason to send a kid to that particular bathroom until one of those passes ends, and now you know that there's space for another kid to go, right? This also has a queue system, so a kid can actually put a pass in, and it'll say, you are 3rd in line, right? When one pass ends, it'll say you're 2nd in line. And so it just simply streamlines and automates a process that frees up the teacher to be able to continue to do their job actively. And I'll say it when I was a teacher, I'm a bit of an attention hog, right? I want you to be engaged in what we're doing, and if Jennifer raises her hand and I think she has some great groundbreaking thing about history that's going to shift the paradigm of our learning, and she says, can I go to the bathroom? Right? Like that just brings everything to a crashing halt. This way, she can request passes of me, kind of give me an eye to say, go, and without me even breaking my sentence, I can walk over, touch one button, and continue without even interrupting my sentence. Nobody needs to know that she needs to go to the bathroom. It's nobody's business, right? She gets up and takes care of her business, and so it really facilitates that ability to set limits on where and how and when kids can go to the bathroom, while also giving them the flexibility to choose and have the agency to choose when to go as well, right? Courtney, if you want to hit the next one. Another incredibly valuable, let's see if it pops up, another incredibly powerful tool is for us to be able to...
It's location tracking.
Is it location tracking?
It's location tracking is the next one.
Location tracking.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the slide looked like though. Yeah, right. Okay, so whenever this pops up, you'll see it. It allows us to show, for example, just on the last week, 10/5 to 10/12, it allows us to have this data that we can mine to see where and how much people are using particular locations. So in the last week, in the 2nd floor middle school restroom, there was a grand total of 205 passes, right? Now that we know how many kids there are, and we know the length of time, and now we can become more reflective about what are our procedures for, is it truly necessary for kids to do this? Or are they using the restroom as a way to escape the instructional space, right? And so then what processes and procedures can we put in place to ensure that kids are intentional about using their passes? And it is kind of maybe a little counterintuitive to think that something as humble, something as small as I need to leave and go to the bathroom, that is also an intentional decision that we make within the educational space, right? After that, whichever one it pops up, is then also frequency limits. So we can then also see at the end of the day, or even in real time, Devin Lumbra, and then underneath it has the number 6. And you can click on that 6, and it'll show you that she has used 6 passes today. She went in the last 10 minutes of class, of the last class, then she had passing period, and now she's walking into my room saying, I need to go use the restroom again, right? And so we can then say, no, if you need to go to the bathroom 3 times in 20 minutes, let's make a phone call home and let's figure out what supports we need to put in place to be able to ensure that again, you're using the restroom intentionally, right? And we can go to the next slide too after that one as well, Courtney, appreciate it. So again, I kind of blanked out some the students' names and the frequency of their passes, but again, it just opens the world up for us to be able to know how and when and where and how long that students have been out of the instructional environment. And so it's just a really incredible thing that a tool that we have in our toolbox. From a school safety point of view, we also have the ability to do contact control. Okay, so Kelly and Nathan are a couple, and they have been yes, right, and they have been known to want to sneak off and meet up somewhere, and that's a known issue to us. So we can set it to where if Kelly is out on a pass, his will simply say, "Sorry, not available yet." Right? And so if you have 2 kids who have beef, who say, we're going to fight in the bathroom, we can set that up. Safety plans for bullying, we can set that up to help put supports in place for the kids who might find themselves to be targeted, right? All of this is stuff that, again, it's simply us being intentional about our processes and procedures and shifting that mindset towards one of ensuring that our students are where they need to be, that we're being intentional and efficient with their time. All right? So there's one shift. The second shift is sitting in front of you right now, and we are beginning to create an opportunity for students to have really authentic opportunities to explore and participate in their governance, in their ability to have a voice in their school. And that is through our student government redesign. Our students over the last several weeks, and this is the first time and hopefully only time that we'll have to be this late in the process, but since the beginning of school, we have been working on a new student constitution that the students have built on Fridays. This is modeled after an authentic collegiate student government experience. We have a new bicameral legislative world. They're learning how to write bills in order to express their will. We are, I can give it to whoever else wants one, but I've got a couple others. It outlines certain rights and responsibilities that the students have. Embedded in here is a ability for students to have student media and the rights of the press. We have embedded in here a peer conflict mediation group in the form of a judicial branch with student justices to be able to hear with permission and privacy notwithstanding, for them to be able to have a voice in their school. We've been working on that, although starting actually tomorrow, students will declare their candidacies for student body president, student body vice president, for class secretaries, for executive branch that will be able to actually have real opportunities to participate in even sort of like leadership team committees, and have a student voice in the decision-making of our school, right? Students who feel like they have the ability to control their environment are learning how to sort of renew the American dream, right? To participate in positive ways in civic dialogue, civic responsibility, and they're learning that here at our school today, right? And so that's something that has not existed at our school for several years and is a wonderful new addition to our program. We'll go to the next slide. And then last but not least is expressions of that, that voice, right? Students who said we would like to see something beyond the normal homecoming experience, reimagining what celebrations of our school look like. We were sort of short in our ability to prepare this year. Coming from Indiana, we start school in early August, and so homecoming was not anywhere near my brain at the start of the year, and they all said, what are we doing for homecoming? And I said, when's homecoming? They said, 2 weeks from now. And I said, really? So we kind of had to move things along. But this year saw homecoming moving away from simply being a dance or a pep session. It is an experience. We had a bounce house, we had s'mores, we had a fire, we had cornhole, we had the dance, we had a video game place where they could work on that sort of stuff. So again, incorporating that agency into what we work on with our students. Go for it. Pass you off to Tim very quickly. I'm sorry, bud.
No, I don't mind the reduced amount of time to sit and speak in front of a group of people. I think I'll be okay with this dilemma. So I want to just briefly introduce myself. My name is Timothy Stanley. I'm the Behavior Systems Coordinator here. I have worked with the district for the past few years. I'm a board certified behavior analyst, and human behavior is really something that fascinates me to no end. So it's a wonderful job to work in a high school and or like a middle high school. And if you want to just learn and watch human behavior unfold, go to lunch and watch and just watch how the students operate, because it really is. It's the best part of my day. Is it exhausting? Absolutely. Is it frustrating at times? Without a doubt. But is it fun and wonderful and interesting and engaging? Absolutely. So it's such a wonderful place to work, and I've loved that we're trying to shift kind of the culture and the direction of the school, and I love being here every day and working with the kids on that project. So a couple of the things that we're doing is we're really trying to make behavioral systems kind of automated and systematic, because my judgment or Ms. Stowe's judgment, who's here tonight, Justin, Anthony, all of that takes time and effort, and it's not always perfect, and it's inefficient. So we want to build systems that teachers can utilize and they can trigger, and we can come to quick and reasonable conclusions on how to support students. One of the things that I'm really excited about is we have a student support referral process right now, and what we're working away from, and we're getting away from for staff, is that a kid doesn't have to be in trouble for you to use this student support referral system to signal the things that I'm trying in this environment aren't really working. I need a little bit more help. So 19% of our referrals have just been teachers writing a quick referral saying, hey, behavior team, I'm seeing this kid in class every day, I'm trying these things, I'm struggling, could you reach out to them or me for more support? They didn't have to have the kid leave class. That's a big deal for us. We want a system that allows teachers to signal, hey, I'm struggling a little bit with this kid, can somebody please help me? And that kid doesn't miss a minute of instructional time. 50% of the referrals, the teacher says, this kid does need a consequence. However, we were able to make it through class. Again, so we're looking at 69% of our behavioral documentation was utilized without any student missing a minute of instructional time. That means that we can get help, we can get access to resources, we can get access to skills, but nobody has lost out on instructional time. That's really important for us. The days of just, you're too loud, you're too disruptive, this is a problem for this environment, you need to go, that doesn't help the kid adjust their behavior. So we're really excited the way teachers are using this. One thing that we're looking at, when you look at special education, which has done a really good job supporting people with disabilities to access their education, when you look at our academic intervention, these are systematic ways that we measure the performance of a student, we assess what they need, and we connect them to adults who can help them build skills. Quite frankly, the world of behavior is lagging so far behind these processes, and it's time that the world of behavior catches right up to that academic intervention. So when we talk about how we're going to respond to behavior, some of those traditional school consequences are not going away. Sometimes they're necessary to keep classes and schools functional. However, that's not where we're stopping anymore. We want to connect these kids to adults that can help them build skills. We talked about e-hall pass. We have a list of kids that we have really clear documentation where it's like, you're out of class a lot. Now, your grade isn't suffering, because that's the first thing they'll say, whoa, I don't care, I'm passing the class. You're right, absolutely, that's good. However, we're trying to graduate students that are ready to be great employees in our community. You might be able to get the job done. Your boss might not want you to take a 7-minute break every hour. You can argue that you're passing the class now, that's a good argument, but we're trying to present, to build students who are going to be great employees in the next step of their life. If you need a break for 7 minutes every hour, you're not ready to be a great employee, so let's work on that. So that's the data, and that's the support, and that's the systems. We don't need to give that kid a consequence, we need to connect them to an adult that can help them understand what their behavior is, how it's limiting their own performance, and give them some skills and some insight on how to change that little by little over time. So we're getting away from just the standard school consequences, and we're looking to have a lot of data attached to each student's behavior and connect them with adults, with groups, with skills and strategies in order to change that over time. So that's a quick overview, but again, anybody that has additional questions or wants to learn more about the changes that we're making within our system this year, please reach out to us. And I think we're on to questions and comments.
Yep.
I think Anthony will handle that.
Yeah, any questions or comments from the board? You know, we've got a lot of things cooking right now and a lot of plans for the future to keep these things, you know, having momentum and lasting throughout the year and continuing to grow on them. The really nice thing about the systems that we're putting into place is it's providing us with tons of data. And that data we're constantly looking at and analyzing and making subtle changes to making sure it's in the best interest of our students. And so we're going to continue to do that. We have systems in place to continue to look at that data.
I just want to make a comment, that actually, can I take that? Thank you. To have this kind of a shift where the entire leadership team is new, and you all have done the work together to get, it's October 14th, and you've already got all of this in place, and I can see it when I'm here in this building, and you can feel some of these shifts in the building. So I applaud you for your early efforts, and I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. So thank you all for sharing tonight, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
I do have a quick question. Can you talk a little bit about the parent and community response to, specifically to the hall pass? What that's been like?
I mean, I can't. I'm not sure if I've had direct feedback from the parents specifically, like to me. Said again, I can't say that I've had any parents reach out to me specifically and give me much in the way of feedback regarding the hall pass. Like any change, especially one that feels like we are maybe it feels like we are limiting them to be able to do something, but it generally is designed to actually give them the flexibility and the agency to decide when to do it, but just simply do it in a more controlled fashion, right?
Thank you.
Have you gotten student feedback on the hall passes?
They hate it, which is why I know it's working. Yeah, I mean, you know, again, part of the data, and I was actually just sharing this with Tony yesterday. I just happened to look at what the data showed yesterday, right? 427 some odd passes in one day, like for a school of 488 kids. And you know, you can look at data in lots of different ways. You can chop it up and make it say what you want to say. And when you say that 427 passes in an 8-hour period, that seems like, wow, a lot, right? That being said, when you then sort of break it down even more, really only about 12 kids used 4 passes, and that was it, right? And then there was another 20 some odd that used 3 passes a day. At my old school, we capped the kids at 4 passes, period. So 4 passes in a day is a lot, but it's not unnormal. But in the end, there were only about 200 and some odd, 230 something total entries of passes. So that means that really only half of the school was utilizing 100% of those passes, right? 2 or more passes. Only about 20 or 30 kids were utilizing 26% of the passes, right? And then that's where we can go in and start to put in supports for those kids and say, well, let's dig a little bit deeper as to when and where and why you're going there, and try to keep them more on task. I think that anytime you have a shift like this, you're going to get students rather that gripe about it during that initial extinction phase. I think that most students have more or less gotten on board with it. And you know, most of them can now be able to say that I'm more thoughtful about when and where I'm going, you know, outside of class.
And we've had students remark that they actually like the hall pass system because they can use the bathroom and actually just use the bathroom now. And they don't have to worry about bathrooms being overcrowded or anything else going on in the bathrooms that they have to worry about like they did in the past. I think one of the best examples that I had of it working for us was a student who said, I hate this e-hall pass system. That's it. I'm just not going to use a pass and I'm just going to stay in class all day.
Yeah.
I said, okay, that'll show us. You stay in class all day, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
On to the, yeah.
Pass down.
Okay, on to the financial budget report. Actually, we're gonna do a presentation for the snack shack first.
No.
Right? No?
Nope. So, Anthony, do you want to introduce this presentation?
Yeah. So Caroline Luce and Patty Stowe are here to talk about, and Annie are here to talk about an upcoming trip that they would like to be planning. And I'm going to let them do all the talking to talk about the trip.
Anthony, could you hand this down?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Hello. So, quickly before I start, we brought Annie with us, who was in the trip, and I just wanted to give a word, but she has to leave soon. So I'm gonna let her just tell you, we're transitioning, telling you quickly about our last trip and going on to the possibly next trip. Annie, before you have to go, you want to say anything?
The trip was super fun. I feel like I learned a lot about French history and also just like culture in different places. There was a lot of things that were really different from America, and that was cool to see. And overall, it was a great trip, and it was well planned. And I think that everyone had a really good time.
You are ready. Yes. So we did that trip. I put together a quick slideshow to show you a few pictures while I quickly explain. The last trip was 11 days. You supported us last year, and I apologize for last year's presentation. I was in bed recovering from surgery under painkillers, so I hope you don't remember. So Gordon, if you just want to just let me go, because I'm just going to quickly say we had a blast. The kids loved it. And I'm not just saying that because they really did. We were lucky to have a group of 6 students and 3 chaperones. The ratio was awesome. Probably not going to have that twice. We had a great group of kids. They all behaved really well. They were very polite and trying their best to speak French, which was really good. And as far as I know, well, one of them graduated, so she's not here anymore. One of them is in a different school. One's in Richford, and the other ones are here, and they're interested in taking another trip. So that's Versailles, for example. So we saw a lot of things, and they realized that we're the same, but we're different. And I always was a big fan of traveling, which is why I wanted to do this trip. And when I saw that it went so well, I'm really hoping you'll be on board for us to continue. I talked with Todd Marlowe in Richford, and we agreed to kind of have a Richford base, Enosburg base trip every other year that we still we're 1, 2, 3. We're still working with both schools. We're still taking kids from both schools, but 1 year I'll organize, 1 year he'll organize. So in the spring it's Japan, and the next trip we're hoping you will support would be to go to Italy and Switzerland. I did not choose. We put it in the vote. The kids voted, and Switzerland and Italy won the contest. And it comes at the end of the slide, but I think it's great for them to see something else. They discovered French food. Of course, they heard about it in my class since I teach French. I cannot say that I'm partial, no, but they discovered that I was not lying. So that's just an example. But they did benefit from it in many, many ways. So I hope we can get this ball rolling. Kind of working.
I just hope you will support us for our next
And
trip.
I put some information. I also sent to Courtney the itinerary that you can forward. And I kind of made a little day-to-day journal about our last trip that goes with the pictures. I hope you'll enjoy my weekly sense of humor. That's all I have.
Board have any questions? I have one on the price. It says for September to September. Is that still gonna be a valid price? Because we're already in October.
Yeah, no, that was when I got the estimate. It's, the prices are still good, but when I prepared this, it was a bit ago. So I will update it, but the prices are to this day still accurate.
Okay.
And it includes a $200 discount for yearly sign up.
And it was right around the same price as our last year's.
Yes, it's about the same price the last trip was. So.
Thank you.
There'll be lots of fundraising.
Any question?
Any questions? No, do we need a,
I think
I'll entertain a motion to accept that.
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made the motion. Devin? There?
Aye.
Walt? Cool.
Aye.
You guys are all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. I think it'll be the summer of
2027.
Yes, July.
Right? July. I think it's in there somewhere.
Okay, on to financial.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. To the budget and pretty going to look on slide 2. I mean, my agenda is going to get on the section and just wanted to let folks know that we put my project out to bid. Bids were due yesterday. We did not have anybody bid on the entire unit. We to have a quote for somebody who would be willing to do the concrete work, but there's a lot of concern about piecemealing this because you need to get everything to line up. I also heard from the boosters today that the original shed that they were looking at building and bringing on site is not going to work for their needs. So we will meet with them over the next couple of weeks. They are talking with another local contractor to see if they can gin up some interest there, and depending on what we get from them, we may need to go back out to bid again, which we could turn around pretty quickly.
I'll just keep us on for next month.
Yep. So in terms of the budget presentation, I think that all of the board members have been through this once, but we've got some administrators who have not been through it with me yet. So anyone should feel free to stop and ask questions as we go through this. This first month and this first look at the budget, we are really only focusing on staffing, which, as you, the board knows, is between 80 and 90% of your budget. And so once we lock the staff in, there's really not so much wiggle room in terms of moving the budget. So the next slide will show you the enrollment projections that we have for the next 5 years, and then also the history for the last 5 years. So you'll see in, I think it's in 2023, we're kind of is where we start bouncing back from COVID. But the next 5 years out seem to be relatively flat. Certainly at the elementary schools, maybe a little bit of a dip at the high school level. What we don't know is how those high school enrollment patterns are going to change with Act 73 and bigger districts, and likely less choice for towns that have choice. So when you're looking at those out years, 2030, 2031, at least at the high school level, we can't put too much faith into those numbers. In terms of the budget development schedule, and this is in the slides that went out to you earlier today, we are hopefully on track for finalizing this budget on your January 13th meeting. At your November meeting, we will do a deeper dive into the actual expenses. Once we get some direction from you on staffing, we will have a lot of that locked down. On December 1st is when the state starts dropping the numbers that will drive the tax rate. So by your December 9th meeting, I'll hope to be able to plug in a bunch of those so we can talk about what the potential tax rate impact is going to be and what we might want to do in terms of leftover fund balance and putting that into a capital reserve fund or putting that into your 27 budget to drive down tax rates. We start the discussion at all 3 boards with the board goals. Don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this tonight, but
as we think about staffing changes, we certainly want to keep in mind what you, through the SU board, has said are the focus areas for the district. In terms of the changes that I see on the horizon, or the bigger changes that we're going to be talking about over the next few months, again, first and foremost is around staffing. We are bringing to you a staffing plan tonight that has a reduction of 8.5 FTE from your general fund budget, and some of that is actually is net of moving some people in from your consolidated federal grants into your local budget. So we've talked about the uncertainty around some of that federal money. Certainly Title II and Title IV and Medicaid are the big worries that we have. Title I seems to be relatively safe, and IDB, which is special ed money, seems to be relatively safe. But I say relative because it's really anybody's guess where things will go with this government. We're currently anticipating health insurance premiums are going to go up about 13%. We should have a more final number for that before your next meeting. VHI, which is the cooperative that manages the health insurance pool for all the schools in the state, needs to file their rates by the end of the month, so we'll at least know what they're asking the state to approve. I'm hoping 13% is high, but that's pretty much the average of the last 3 years, and so I think at this point that's a safe number. If nothing else changed and we had to apply 13% to your FY26 budget, that's already over a $300,000 increase. So you can see, because so much of your budget is in people, that high increase to health insurance premiums is going to be a big hit. The other insurance that we pay for, primarily your general liability and property and vehicles for Cold Hollow, we're told on average as a state is going to go up 5%. Later this week, we should be able to get the district by increase. So maybe there'll be some good news there, but that's a relatively smaller piece of the pie compared to the staffing. And then talk a little bit about the federal funding, and I'm certainly happy to go into that more, and Lynn may have an update on that in her section as well. So going into staffing changes school by school, at Enosburg Elementary, a net wash in terms of the number of people in the building. We're actually planning on bringing an interventionist in from the federal programs, the federal grant, and then that's offset by a reduction of one paraeducator. At Richford Elementary, a reduction of 2 folks, one a K through 5 paraeducator and one a pre-K paraeducator that we haven't been able to fill. I will tell board members, I think this is not new to you, once we get out of this meeting, the teacher and the admin staff predictions that we make kind of hold for the rest of the season. Those paraeducator numbers may move pretty radically as different needs show up in our buildings or move to other buildings. But Richford Elementary overall down 2 people. At the high school level at Enosburg, moving in the family engagement coordinator from the federal grant into the local budget. Reduction of 1 support staff member as the middle school dedicated admin assistant. And an overall reduction of almost 5.5 teachers in terms of FTE. A lot of these are positions that have not been filled. We did not fill them last year in a number of cases. So I think there's 1 from each of the core areas, reduction of a Spanish teacher, and then a fraction of an interventionist, and then a fraction of the theater teacher, which we had moved from 1.0 to 2.5 going into this year. Some similar changes at Richford High School. Also moving half-time of an interventionist into your local budget. We've brought the first half of them in this year. Reduction of a fraction of a paraeducator and a slight reduction overall in terms of teaching staff and some moving around of duties. Anticipating right now that the librarian would go from 1.0 to 0.75, and that person would pick up some additional intervention duties. And then at Cold Hollow, no changes. We've got an opening for a support staff position that would allow us to take more kids on, I think in the auto program, maybe it's shared over a couple of programs. Nate could weigh in on that. But that's one that we can fund out of the Perkins grant, both this year and anticipating for next year. And it seems like the tech ed federal grants, similar to Title I and special ed, feel relatively safe. So any questions on staffing changes before we move on to that, or do any of the principals want the mic to add any color to what I've got up there?
I'm good with it.
Okay, these next two slides will be in your budget packet, and we won't spend a whole lot of time on them. But just as a recap, statewide education funding, which is the money that we need to raise to fund whatever budget the voters approve, are made up of three broad buckets. Homestead tax is about a quarter, non-homestead tax is about 39%, so half of the remaining money. And then other sources, mostly rooms and meals tax and Medicaid money make up the rest of it. So historically, it's been about a third. And then the next slide, which you can't really see on the screen, but you'll be able to see in the slide deck that I've shared, and this will go out to your voters as well, is a breakdown of, for that quarter of homestead tax, how much of that is raised in Enosburg, how much of that is raised in Richford, and how much of that is raised elsewhere in the state. And I think the take home for both of our districts is that only a small fraction of the money that we spend is raised in property tax within the towns in FDSU. There's a perception out there, I think almost everybody in the state thinks that they're in a gold town. We are very much in a town that benefits from having a statewide property tax system. The numbers on those last two slides are for the current year, so they're not going to change based on your budgeting decisions going forward. And then I think the last slide I have is an update to the spending per pupil graph across the state. The range from the lowest spending to the highest spending is almost exactly 2 to 1. So what that means is that the lowest spending district is spending half of what the highest spending district is spending on a per pupil basis. You can see 2 black lines. The taller of the 2 is the statewide average, and the lower is the Franklin County average. The 5 red lines scattered throughout are our neighbors in Franklin County and what they're spending on a district by district basis. And then the 2 blue lines towards the bottom, Enosburg-Richford being the lowest of those 2, are what we spend per weighted pupil. And again, this is for this current year. None of the changes over the last few years, which have seen a large dollar increase to the budgets, have really moved the needle in terms of what we're spending compared to the rest of the state. And that's it. So this is a time for you to ask any questions on the staffing and give us any sort of course correction if you want it, so that we can use that when we bring you actual dollar amounts next month.
Good. Any questions on that? Anybody? I'm good with it. Thank you. Okay. All right, Lynn?
Okay, I will start with personnel. You have nothing for action under hiring. It's all informational with our support positions, so we have head custodian Kevin Flint at Enosburg Elementary School. We had an opening for an SEL, not SEL, a LEAPS after school site coordinator, and Leslie Thompson, one of the pre-K teachers, has taken that on. Enosburg Middle High School, Charlie Loisel for JV boys basketball, and Abe Barnard for the assistant varsity girls soccer coach. We have some resignations, again, those are all informational. Natalie Reed, varsity girls soccer, Anissa Medugno, assistant varsity girls soccer, Jake Gilman, assistant varsity girls soccer. We do have some openings at Cold Hollow. We are looking for a lab teaching assistant, as Morgan already indicated. Enosburg Elementary, we are looking for a school nurse and a paraeducator. The middle high school at Enosburg, we're looking for a literacy interventionist. I think I just said that boys basketball had been filled, right?
Yes, we.
No, I did not.
No.
Sorry, that's middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school boys basketball, middle school baseball, guidance director, that's been a position open for several years. JV baseball and a high school paraeducator position. At Richford Junior Senior High School, a paraeducator, middle school girls basketball, JV boys basketball, and varsity baseball. So people are watching and interested. We have positions. You should reach out to one of the principals if you're interested. Or Jamie McAllister, HR director at our central office. This is just the time of the year where I notify the board that you have some administrators that are up for negotiations. So you have Jennifer Hubbard, Justin Schwenk, Kelly Dean, Beth O'Brien, and Nate DeMar. So this would be a good time for you to give me direction. Is that something that you want to continue the way we have done it?
Yes.
Or, okay. So I'll bring information back in either next month or the month after, and we'll move into executive. I have two things under student that we will do at the very end, and we'll do that in executive session. So I'm going to talk a little bit now. There's a lot happening both at the federal level and at the state level that I think it's really important for our board members and for our community members to understand, because much of this, if you're not paying attention, might be invisible to you. So Act 73 passed this year, and that's Vermont's big education transformation bill. So within Act 73, there were class size minimums that were established in that law. So I want to just review that with all of you. The principals are well aware of this, and they've done some work in really analyzing class sizes and moving us towards those class size minimums. So these numbers shifted several times throughout the process last year, and this is where they landed. So you can see that the average class size minimum for first grade shall be 10. For second grade through fifth grade, 12 students. Minimum for sixth through eighth grade in all content areas is 15. Average class size for grades 9 through 12 in all required content areas shall be 18. Multi-age classrooms for grade kindergarten through eighth grade shall be limited to 2 grade levels per classroom, and that is really connected to some of the really small schools that exist. They're seeing 2, 3, or maybe even more classes put together in one multi-age. So they're trying to hit those class size minimums without having more than 2 grade levels in a multi-age. There are some some exceptions to the class size minimums, and those are related to pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, our CTE programs, flexible pathways, terminal courses, advanced placement courses, courses that require specialized equipment, and driver ed classes shall be excluded. You may wonder what some of those things mean. I may know what some of them mean, and I may not know what others mean. There's no clear guidance yet on what they're considering a terminal course or a flexible pathway. I can make assumptions around some of the flexible pathways where you have multiple students taking ELO, or they're out doing work-based learning opportunities and things like that, but I'm expecting we'll get more information. related to this. And it's also not including anything that's connected to special education or other levels of intervention that might fall within our MTSS system. So those are not intended to be counted towards class size minimums. Any questions on what it says in the law? So this is the month each year where I need to give you class size comparisons. So we have a class size policy in FNESU, which we'll actually be discussing for those members that are on our policy committee tomorrow at our policy team meeting. So on this graph, Courtney has put this together for us. You can see the grade clusters that we have to report out on, and then the minimum average per our policy, and then the Act 73 minimum class size averages. So we have this broken out by Enosburg Elementary, Richford Elementary, Enosburg Middle, and Richford Middle. And you can see that in terms of class sizes in our elementary school, we have no grade levels where we are below that class size minimum. So that's something that the administrators have been very strategic about. In Enosburg Middle and Richford Middle School, we are over the class size minimums in almost every area. We have 2 grade levels. The average per section for 7th and 8th at Richford Junior Senior High School is slightly below that minimum class size. So I want to just talk a little bit about that. So people have a lot of questions about what's going to happen if we're below the minimum, and there'll be guidance, I'm assuming, is coming from the agency. What I believe to be true now is that they're going to be looking over a multi-year period. So you may have a contact that says you're under class size, but if it's a pattern, there may be some steps that you're expected to take, some sort of corrective action, and then you'll have a period of time to meet that corrective action. What we've been told is 2 years. So we'll keep our eye on this and report back to the board as that evolves with the state. So we do have some comparison data for our high school courses as well. Is that something you're able to click into, Courtney? Mm-hmm. It's not letting me click on mine. Okay, I have to present. Let's see it. So this data is a little challenging to put together, but I just want to express gratitude for both leaders at the middle high schools for putting this together and for the staff that helped them. So it's really taking a look at what are all the course offerings we have at both high schools. Where you see a dashed line, it means that course is not offered in that high school. So you can look through and you can see the class sizes. These numbers are much more closely aligned to the Act 73 minimum class sizes than they were last year. As you remember, we looked through this last year and the majority of our courses would have fallen under that number. So I know these principals have done some strategic work around scheduling of classes and really looking at the number of sections we need to offer in order to be able to stay within that threshold. So this is data that the board has that you can take a look at. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me, or we can circle back to it at your next meeting. I know it's a lot of information at once. You also have Cold Hollow class sizes, and these are, there's not a minimum there for the CTE programs, but we do have some that are full. As I think when we visited Cold Hollow, Nate expressed that there are some that we might have a wait list for. So Nate has everything listed out, the number of students that are in each of those programs, and he has it divided out by which sending school, so you'll be able to tell which students in that program are from Enosburg, from Richford, which students are from MBU, and which students are from BFA St. Albans. And we also have some BFA Fairfax students in our senior classes. So you can see all of those numbers there. He's also taken a look at the number and the associated percentage of each of the junior classes in both of our sending high schools, and also the percentage of students that are attending pre-tech from both of the high schools. Any questions on the class size reports? Okay. So this next part is maybe not the most exciting part, but we do need to go over this. So for the first time, the Agency of Education has this is codified in law. They have developed district quality standards, and we have had education quality standards for quite some time. They have been revised, so those education quality standards are brand new, effective July 1, 2025. We have known that the education quality standards were being rewritten, and we have known that they were gonna go live July 1, 25. What is new for us is that there are going to be assessments of certain measures of the education quality standards and all of the indicators associated with the district quality standards. So that's brand new in terms of the work that we typically do with the agency. So here is a little timeline to just familiarize the board with this work, because some of this work will be your work. So this fall, there is what's considered a beta test of some of the district quality standards. I think I left them all in my office.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
And I'm just gonna own that there's a pile of these on my desk at the office that I did not grab, so I will get those to all of you tomorrow. We will get those scanned to you. So there are district quality standards, there are standards and indicators, and we're going to have to measure each of the standards and indicators that are in this beta test. So it's a portion of all of the district quality standards, but not all of them. So this winter, the agency will report out on the state of the state in terms of the beta test related to the district quality standards. So it is, all of the beta tests are self-assessments, so we'll have to fill it out, and then I'll need to submit on behalf of each of our boards. There'll be no identifiable information that will be shared this year in the state of the state. It'll be, how is Vermont doing as a whole? That is not true for next year. So next year, they'll be working this spring to refine and develop. Some of the district quality standards don't have rubrics yet that have been released, so they're still in development. And they will be refining some of the rubrics that they're using this year based on feedback after we do the beta test. So they're expected to also provide technical assistance and trainings based on the data that they receive from that. So next year at this time, during the fall of 26, they will roll out a district quality standard quality assurance test, and that will be all of the district quality standards. In the winter of 26, so next school year, not this winter, but probably December 26, the first publication of UUSD quality standard results will be released publicly. So each of the districts across the state, 119 districts, will have those assessments that will be released. So, actually, Courtney, if you could click the link to the district quality standards, that would be helpful. Even though you don't have the paper in front of you, I'll just have Courtney kind of scan through, so you, when you get this in your email, you'll see the purpose for the district quality standards. We'll give you some definitions in there. And then you'll see that there are multiple categories within the district quality standards. The first is business operations, and then there are several indicators that fall under business operations, including risk management, internal controls, personnel management, and data management. The next section is facilities management and safety. So it'll be facilities management that falls under that. Facilities safety. Governance is the next section. Under that is governance priorities, governance protocols, governance processes. Then there is a review process, and this is This is a little interesting because there are measures within the education quality standards. That is a really comprehensive document, and there are a lot of indicators in the education quality standards. They are pulling out several pieces of the education quality standards to measure within this beta test. So that have fallen under the district quality standards. So we will be assessing several categories in our education quality standards. So curriculum coordination, local graduation requirements, needs-based professional learning, staff evaluation, tiered system of supports, access to instructional materials, state and local comprehensive assessment systems, and continuous improvement plans. And I hope, as board members, all of those things sound familiar to you. I'm so glad there are heads nodding. That means we've been doing our job. So we have seen these things on the horizon, and these are the center of a lot of the work that we've been doing within the system. So these are some of the things that we'll be reporting out on. They will be doing reviews as well, and that's through the self-assessment. And then there's a category at the end that I would like you to just put your eyes on in terms of the district quality standard, and that's the enforcement section. When I presented this to the NMV district board, this was something that one of the board members pointed out. This language is actually not new. This language has existed in the Vermont Law Book for quite some time. So if an SU or district fails to take corrective actions that are identified under this review within the 2 years of notification, the agency can take one or more of the following actions. They can continue to provide technical assistance to school districts for one or more cycles of review. They could adjust SU boundaries or responsibilities of the superintendent. They also can assume administrative control of an individual school, district, or SU. Could be budgetary, financial, to any extent that they deem that there's a deficiency. The state board can also choose to close an individual school or schools that require that school district to pay tuition to another public school or approved independent school. And the state board could require 2 or more school districts to consolidate their governance structures. So these are not optional for us to be attending to. The good news is that the EQS standards that we have known are coming and have been working on are embedded in there, so we feel pretty good about those. This self-assessment, they have been very clear we should be thinking about the self-assessment as we are where we are, and we're gonna work to try to get to the proficient level. So each of the indicators, there's some examples in my slides. Oops. Thank you, Courtney. I'm actually not there on my slide, but there we go. So this is an example of one of the rubrics. So this is for budgeting and accounting. So you can see the standard on the left that the SU or district employs grants management practices that enable it to effectively and efficiently spend its federal grant funds and prevent reversion of funds. So we'll look through that rubric and be able to identify where are we as a system on that rubric. And these will be pieces that we will come back to you and share information. We'll have a discussion at the November meeting about, is there anything that you want to add to this? You agree, do you disagree? Some of these you wouldn't have some of the knowledge of some of these, so we'll be providing it for you, and others you'll have to do as a board. So that's one example. The next example is under governance priorities. So at least annually, the board sets measurable goals and regularly reviews the progress towards those goals. So this was something we are having weekly office hours with the Agency of Education because this is all brand new. And one of the points that I made to them last week is that the goals are at the system level, not at the district board levels, and we're all working in service to those overarching goals. So one of the things that they will put in, they've told me that they will put into the measure, is an option for us to click NA. And so for us as a district board, for you all as a district board, we would not score ourselves on that because that's not something this board is expected to do.
That's one of the questions was if we're doing one for a district and MV's doing a district, why are we doing SU one too? It's kind of overlapping. Why isn't there
That's a
different rubrics for the
Very
SU?
good point.
Right.
I think my instinct is they're looking to see if there's alignment. I will say that I got a sense from being on those calls, those office hours, there are some systems that are not as aligned as ours is.
Right.
I, got from some of the questions that within some systems that have multiple districts, they also have multiple different local comprehensive assessment plans. They have multiple different board goals that they're working for. They have not been working to unify and head in the same direction. So some of the coordination that was required in Act 173, which is what we've been working on, they're gonna measure under those ed quality standards, and not everyone has done that yet. So I think that will show up if the district boards are really different than what the SU board is. So I think that's why they're making us do. It does, a little bit. So in terms of the revisions to Vermont's education quality standards, this is the first line of Vermont's education quality standards. All Vermont students are afforded educational opportunities that are substantially equal in quality and are equitable, anti-racist, culturally responsive, anti-discriminatory, and inclusive. So if we think about the totality of the education quality standards, it really has 6 buckets that everything falls into. So equitable learning environment, instructional practices, flexible pathways, continuous improvement plans, tiered system of supports, and curriculum content area. So when you think about the work we've been doing within FNESU, on the left, these are our professional learning priorities, and we've been pulling on these for several years. So we're working towards the goals around reading mastery, the work we're doing around our portrait of a learner. We have been working on school culture, our multi-tiered system of supports for learners, and responsive and high leverage practices. So if you look at those circles and the color-coded circles, and then you lay that over the top of Vermont's education quality standards, what this slide reflects is within each of the 6 components of the ed quality standards, those circles correspond to the work we're already doing to meet the goals that are associated with the ed quality standards. So I feel we're positioned pretty well as a supervisory union to be able to demonstrate the work that we've been doing to get there. It is no small task. I just want to say that out loud. There's a lot embedded in the ed quality standards, and there is a lot embedded in the district quality standards. So we will not be proficient in everything. We'll be exceeding in some things, we'll be beginning in others, we'll be developing in others. So those will just help us to center where our growth goals should be. So this is an example of one of the standards for the beta test that's connected to one of those ed quality standard measures. So this is about the balanced assessment system. Employs a balance of assessment types, included but not limited to teacher or student designed assessments, portfolios, performances, exhibitions, projects, and surveys or other tools to measure the social emotional health of students. So we'll be working through assessing those pieces. And this is where, more to your question, I feel like we will have some systems that will be reporting this in maybe 10 different ways, depending on how many different districts they have. So this is a beta test. This is something that we will do our best on, and we'll use the data that we have internally to push us forward. And I want to acknowledge something that I've heard in the community, and I want to just name it here. So Michelle Irish has been working for several years. We hired her through ESSER with some of the ESSER money that we received during COVID. We've known that we've needed another position to hold some of this work at the central office piece, and we were able to pilot that work. She was the director for the advancement of educational equity, and that was a position that was allowable under that grant. So The work that she's done has expanded significantly since she began, and she is holding a lot more in terms of her duties and responsibilities. So she is holding everything connected to hazing, harassment, bullying, everything connected to our homeless students, our students who are emerging multilingual learners, all of our parent-family engagement work. She holds a really heavy part of our professional learning planning. So we have changed her title. We changed her title partway through last year. So she is someone who now her title is, she is the Director for Education Quality. And one of the reasons we called it that was, if you go back to a few slides where I said this is what falls under Vermont's education quality standards, this is really the body of her work, where she's helping us to orchestrate all of these pieces, and many of these responsibilities fall into her realm. So it is a huge job, and it is really centered on education quality from top to bottom. And then, of course, other people have different elements related to education quality, whether it's preschool or special education or facilities or things like that. Any questions on that? No. And finally, I just want to talk about the impact of the government shutdown on schools. We received this kind of verbatim. I've just pasted it in here from the Agency of Education. We received this on the day the government shutdown began. So much of this is similar to what Morgan already reported to you. Most of our funding is forward funded. Most of our education funding is forward funded. So at this point, we think that we're going to be okay on some of those for this year. There may be some delays in terms of, I don't know if you want to explain that part, Morgan. Actually, I don't think we're expecting delays, at least for quarter one, but there might be some delays as we move forward, just in terms of the shutdown piece. The biggest worry that we have right now is connected to child nutrition. So we know that we are okay and we're in a stable position through November, but if the government shutdown lasts longer than that, it could impact what we receive back for offering school meals to our kids after November. Anything you want to add to that? So I think that we're continuing to keep our eyes on it. We're worried about that piece. We continue to be worried about our LEAPS after school program funding, because that is driven by Medicaid and consolidated federal grants. So at this point, I think we're okay for the remainder of the year, but we do have some contingency plans if any of that changes. The challenge is that right now we're going through a budgeting process for what's happening, more than a year from now. So we're planning out what's gonna happen in the 26-27 school year, but we're live in the 25-26 school year. And if any of these changes impact us real time, we have employees under contract and we will need to figure it out as it comes. So for right now, we think we're okay in a variety of places, and we have other places that we have just a little more worry about. Any final thoughts?
Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions? Okay, all right, move on to the principal's reports. Kelly?
Everything is informational. I think the one thing I'd like to highlight is, I don't need the microphone. Everything is informational. The one thing I would like to highlight is that we did have a visit last week, as did Beth, from Zoe Saunders and Aaron Davis, the Chief Academic Officer, and it was a relatively short visit. I told her I wished she had been there for the day. There was a lot that I would like to have shared with her, so I tried to be really concise and pack a lot into the 15 or 20 minutes that I had her. However, our students were the ones that, I had 4 students that presented to her and Aaron, and they did a phenomenal job. Like, they just tied it all up. It was I think, even though they were talking, they were really showing. And I think it's just a true testament to showing, not just telling. I was telling, they were showing. And they did a phenomenal job.
Thank you. Beth?
Mine is informational. We did have a visit from the secretary this week. That went well. I was very proud of both my staff and students. But I'd like you all to know that we're having a benefit game tomorrow night at Richford Elementary School. Richford girls versus Enosburg girls, to benefit a Richford Elementary School student, Rhett Elwood, who has cancer. And I wanted to also tell you that the day of our next board meeting, which is November 11th, is Veterans Day. Our National Honor Society is hosting a blood drive at the school in memory of a former student of Richford and Cope Hollow, Evan Donna, who recently passed. And we'll be honoring our veterans, and it's going to be a school-wide event. We're gonna have different classes participating in things that are happening that day.
Thank you. Jen?
It's hard to top either one of those. I wanted to highlight, everything's informational, and I just wanted to highlight the work that we're doing. We're taking Wayfinder and the core concepts of self-awareness, empathy, adaptability, collaboration, agency, and purpose. And we're really looking at that with a portrait of a learner and seeing where all those qualities we're working on, where they fit in a portrait of a learner. So the staff has been doing a good job. We've had a couple staff meetings about it. And right now as a school, we're working on self-awareness and gonna have an all-school assembly this week about that.
Nice. Anthony?
Everything on my report is informational. The one action item we had moved up, and I think I've highlighted enough for you guys.
I'm Sue's Butcher. The only thing that I want to highlight is this Friday, we partner with North Country Credit Union, and we do a financial reality fair that kind of sets the stage for the rest of the financial literacy work we do. So our juniors, our morning students, will be put through the ringer on an entry-level job of a salary, a monthly budget, and then they'll start paying rent, groceries, cell phone bill, and learn how fast that all adds up on a kind of a entry-level job. So that kind of sets the stage for some future work.
Thank you. Okay, our next meeting is November 18th at Richford Elementary.
Sorry.
And is there anything else the board wants to add to that meeting? If not, then I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for a student.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made a motion. Cool. Rachel?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
I think we can release everyone except Anthony.